Hey everybody, Z Garcia here, and today I'm going to be giving you a quick look at the new Keyforge set, which is titled Winds of Exchange, as you can see right there. Winds of Exchange. This set is going to feature these houses here, which in fact does feature a brand new house. They're called the Equidon, and they are sort of merchants by trade. So they're going to be doing a lot of wheeling and dealing style actions, all right? So I'm going to be showing you some of the decks, a couple of the decks here so you can see. And I'm going to put those side by side with one of my decks, in fact, so you can spot some differences. This is one of my own decks, Z Who Steps on Weapons. It happens more often than you'd think. And we're going to be taking a look at that next to one of the brand new decks right here. This is Volodar Transformative Web Guide. So immediately you are going to notice a big difference in the new Winds of Exchange set, and that is that the backs of the cards look very different, okay? So they still feature their three houses, and again, some of the later houses here, and also including the brand new one, that Equidon house. But the backs all have this feature right here. And in fact, every deck in this set is going to look like this with a different picture there. That is the token creature that deck can create. And in fact, you get one of those in the game, which is just a token creature. So it would be this one right here, which on the back features some a quick reference of some of the ideas in the deck, some of the just general usage keywords. And then on the front is that character there. This character you see right here, a senator, a token creature, a dinosaur politician from this faction, and it has an action that you can utilize. So in this case, every token that is created from this deck has this ability, this action. That means that many of the cards in the deck are going to create a token, and when that happens, you take the top card of the deck, you put it into play, and this is part of your characters, you know, and it'll behave just like this. So no matter how many of these you have, they are represented by this token right here. So that right there is a brand new idea. And like I said, every deck in this set in Winds of Exchange has this kind of back with a different image there. From what I understand, even though you might end up with the same token creature, I believe there are 4 different variants of each of these tokens. So even if you have another deck that has this same image on the back, the token that ends up in there, it could be one of 4 different things. I believe it's 4, 3 or 4. So there you go. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the cards as well, and I'll show you just some of the things you can expect to see. But really, that's the big difference there, okay? Another thing I want to point out right away, before I forget, because it's a doozy, is that this deck has now been played, this deck specifically has now been played once. And you can see the kind of fray, the kind of wear and tear that unfortunately the cards are already developing. Now this might not be a big deal to you if you are someone who sleeves your cards immediately upon taking them out of the package, but they do show some wear incredibly quickly. In fact, some of the decks coming out of the pack showed some wear. And this is a deck here from the original set, the very first release of the game, and as you can see, it is not as damaged. Now this is not a deck that's been sleeved, by the way. So right there you can see some difference in the printing quality, and that's unfortunate. It's honestly the biggest hit I have against the new Winds of Exchange set, and what I can only assume is Keyforge going forward. Again, if you sleeve your deck, this is not as big a problem, but if you sleeve opaque, you lose this lovely piece of artwork right here. Certainly you can still put this card out there and know that every card that has an opaque black back or red back or however you choose to sleeve is represented by this, but you still lose that lovely little piece of artwork, which is a nice touch. So be aware of that, all right? So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the cards in here in the deck, and we'll go through them. Let's put out the card that shows you the 3 factions. There they are. Those are the Saurian, the Equidon, the new ones, and Star Alliance. And then we have, like I said, our token there. And we'll just take a quick look at some of these cards. I'll just shuffle these up, and we'll go through some of these, all right? So here we've got Epic Poem, the Saurians. You get to exalt creatures and gain 1 for each one on that creature. So exalting them makes them richer targets for your opponents. We've got Teamwork here from the Star Alliance. You're going to have some of those. And then this is from the new faction, all right? Forced retirement. And like I said, these are very much about wheeling and dealing. They're supposed to be merchants. That's the vibe that they're putting out. So this one, play this, destroy a creature. If you do, its controller gains 1 ether. So pretty good trade, especially if there's a nasty, minion in your way, a nasty creature in your way. You can get rid of them, and the only thing you need to do is pay them a little consolation price and get rid of them. Higher on is going to be make a creature a token creature. If there's a combined total of 6 or more ether between both players' pools, then you archive this card, and you can pick it back up later on. So again, all the word play and all the thematics is going to be about hiring, firing, wheeling, dealing, selling, buying, that sort of thing. So there you go. I'll just go through these a little bit faster now. Shrewd Investor here has elusive and play. You may have your opponent gain 1 ether. If you do, capture 4. Pretty nasty. Shrewd Investor is it's like a buyout basically. So we have our Sandhopper over here. A buggy, a vehicle, it's an artifact card. Return a friendly creature to its owner's hand. If you do, you may play a non-Equidon creature from your hand. There we go, uncommon currency. Swap control of this and an enemy artifact. Again, that buying and selling sort of idea. Here's another one who has enhanced some of the cards in the deck. And then we've got, of course, some Star Alliance as well. Auction off here. Purge an artifact its controller gains 1. Uncharted lands and some other things. So there we go. That gives you a look at some of the new cards in the new faction, sort of the way they behave, the kind of general ideas you can expect to see. Let me show you a couple of other decks. I know what you really want to see is actually my Z Who Steps on Weapons deck, but you're gonna have to wait for that. That's gonna be a different video. Let me wrap this one up, pull it off, show you a different one. Here we've got this Vi Brodal's Hoodlum deck, little funky name there, with those houses featured, including Unfathomable from the cycle before this cycle. And then, as you can tell right there, that little guy is this little guy, Fish. He is the token creature, he is a beast. When he is destroyed, he's going to deal 2 damage to the most powerful enemy creature. And again, the idea being you can generate a bunch of these and possibly end up, well, doing a lot of damage when these guys are destroyed, all right? One final thing I want to mention as far as the quality of the cards, by the way, and I just noticed this as I shuffled up the deck and was reminded of it. These decks are cut differently than the original decks. And by that I mean one of them was cut face down by the punch, and the other one was cut face up by the punch. And so they shuffle differently. I'll try to show you what I mean here. So I take this original Z Who Steps on Weapons deck, and I'll shuffle that. And I have tremendous control because I'm catching the edge of the cards. This deck here is punched the other way. So the rounded corners are facing down, and it's harder for me to shuffle without getting clumping in the deck like that. It's actually just getting away from me. I could shuffle the way I just did if I simply turn them face down, and then I'll have a lot of control with those cards, but be aware of that as well. Again, something that you probably won't care about if you are if you're sleeving these cards, but be aware of it, that they do show that wear and tear pretty quickly, and that they are going to shuffle differently. This one is not as bad. There's some nastiness right there, but it's going to be a problem if you do not sleeve your decks, all right? So let's take a look at some of these cards right here. We've got some of the original factions in this one here. The Brobnar are in this one with Berserker Slam. Some of the new ones, Closed Door Negotiation here, where you can your opponent's going to draw a card and then you steal one. If you do and your opponent still has more, you can trigger that effect again. Just stealing all the goodies. Here's a red card where you play this and you get some Bracken cards. Dragnet over here for the Unfathomable. Return a creature in each neighbor that shares a house with it to the opponent's, to the owner's hands, rather. Krog the Clumsy over here. Vulka, another Closed Door Negotiation there. Kamalani there. Is when this is destroyed, you made 2 token creatures. So again, you take 2 cards from the top of your deck and you go boom, boom, and now you've got 2 fish. And that's the fish right there. So now one thing that this does, and I should go ahead and mention it here as I'm passing these cards by and showing you what they look like. It's pretty gross. Is that because the decks now have this new format, this new utilization, the original design philosophy was, well, the cards have no costs because they're split across 3 houses, right? And if you do particularly well this round by being able to draw a lot of the Brobnard cards and playing 4 of those, 5 of those, then next round you're going to draw a hand that has none of those. Likely, right? Very few of them anyway. But the problem is, and this is, again, it's a blessing and a curse a little bit, because I love the token stuff. I think it's really neat that each deck is now associated with a token and that they are so simple and clean and you can have a deck all about this token sometimes. But the problem is, creating tokens face down like this is going to mess with the mathematical breakdown of the deck being made up of 3 identical parts, the houses being exactly 1/3 of the deck. Because it's possible that as you remove cards, you are, let's say, really going into this unfathomable faction, and you're putting out a bunch of fish and what have you. Well, you can now end up having all the cards that end up face down, none of those being unfathomable, which means you're drawing more of that house, more than you should, because you're messing with the breakdown of the deck by having some of these cards be face down, making the play a little bit swingy, or at least it feels that way. It feels like it might be a little bit swingier because of the nature of that. So it's just something to be aware of, that sometimes you'll feel like, man, playing a lot of tokens face down is messing with the math of my deck. I'm not drawing what you'd think I would draw, which is, well, the other houses, because they maybe are ending up, you know, face down over here. So it's something to be aware of in this new format, this new set that's all about these token creatures. All right, so there you go. You have, like I said, the 3 different factions here, and I think you've seen quite a few of them by now, with the new ones being certainly a very interesting faction. So here we have one last one there. She's just enhanced a bunch of goodies. Pretty good stuff. All right, so there we go. What ended up over here? Okay, all right. Brick Nasty? Yes, it is. After another friendly Brobnar creature fight, gain 1. That fella is pretty nasty. So there we go, folks. Again, just a couple of the decks to show you what is featured in here. We've got, like I said, there's all sorts of decks that feature different little characters that are going to be your main little token for the whole deck. And that injects a lot of fun into the game, to be honest. I think it's really cool that this whole set is about these things, to a large extent. Injecting a lot of fun and interest into why you might pilot one deck over another. But be aware of some of the drawbacks I mentioned. I think Keyforge overall, I'm very glad and very happy to see it come back, and I think it's got probably a bright future ahead of it if it's able to catch back on with folks. This set is neat. I do worry a little bit about the production, like I said. I do worry a little bit about the reliability of some of these decks as you are putting a lot of cards face down, and how that might mess with the math of the game. But I enjoyed it quite a bit, and it gets a thumbs up from me. So there you go. Go out there, pick up some Keyforge again, give it a shot, see what you think of this new set. I personally, well, I like it. So that's going to do it, folks. Thanks very much for watching. My name is Z Garcia. I'm going to see you on the next one.